Are you on the winning side?
Amen.
You got your hand in His hand.
Praise the Lord.
I found out, man, I went through some places. If I hadn't had my hand in His hand, I'd be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
I've been in some places, it'd been pretty dark. But I found out that He's faithful and He's true. Let's get into it.
Praise the Lord.
Thank you. You know, sometimes in life, it gets rough. Sometimes that old row that you've got to get out there and hoe is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it feels like, man, and you're coming down that hoe and it's like hitting concrete and it just ain't working too good, and you beat and you bang and you're trying to pull that row off and plant your seed, and man, it ain't going through. So you go get you a mattock and you bust that ground up and you get that hoe in there and you begin to pull that row. And it gets a little bit easier and you pull and you're going along, and the old devil begins to whisper to you, won't you just quit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Won't you just stop? But you got to have gumption in your life. If you got some gumption, you're going to pull that hole through that rope.
Yes.
You're going to dig and you're going to keep coming. You might run into a rock. You might run into a stone. It might feel like that rock just jerked that hole out of your hand, but you keep holding. And you keep pulling. Because you're not looking at what's happening right now. You're looking at that crop that's going to come in a few months, and you keep digging, and you've got the gumption to do that. And if you continue, when the season's right, the crops come in, the plants come up, and we get to enjoy the vegetables from that. You got to have some gumption in your life. Sometimes it's a rocky road that we're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it ain't no 4-lane highway sometimes. Sometimes it's a little path, and it's rocky, and there's stones in the way. There's rocks in the way. And sometimes it seems like it's almost straight up, David. And you're struggling. And you're pushing. And the devil comes and he says, quit. But I said, no, devil, I can't quit. I'm going through to the end. I know my destiny. I know my destination. I know where I'm heading.
Yes, bless you.
So you keep pushing and you keep pushing. And sometimes it seems like it's a steep. Man, your nose is right level with the ground. But you keep going, and eventually you get to the top and you look around and man, everything's great. You've reached your destination. If you got some gumption, you can do that. Sometimes you're out on the sea of life and it gets bad. It's stormy sometimes. Sometimes the waves begin to crash in your little boat and you begin to get swamped. And you begin to think, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And you see a bucket and you begin to bail the water out of that boat and you're giving it all you've got. And it seems like there's twice as much water coming in as it's going out. But if you persevere, if you've got some gumption and you keep bailing, you will reach that shore. You'll reach where you're going. But it takes gumption. It takes some get up and go. Now, many years ago when I was in the military, when the going got tough, we had a saying, David, and I don't know if you remember this. You take 2 salt tablets and you drive on. And I've lived that the biggest part of my life. When the going gets tough, take 2 salt tablets and drive on. Don't run from that problem, run through that problem. Don't give up and don't quit when it gets tough. And it sometimes gets tough.
Yeah, bless the Lord.
But if we persevere, if we keep going, if we get some gumption, we can make it through, can't we?
Amen.
The text today is Galatians 6, verse 9. Don't get tired of helping others. You will be rewarded when the time is right, if you don't give up. You know, every year, magazines publish a list of the top people of the year, or the top state parks of the year, top songs of the year, maybe the top beach destinations of the year. The Bible's got one of them lists too. And that's the 11th chapter of the book of Hebrews. It's called the Heroes of the Faith. And in this list of people, when we read over this list, we stand in awe. There's Abraham. Man, there's Moses. There's Samson. There's David. And we think, wow, these guys must really, really be something. They're on this list of God's best. The 11th chapter of the book of Hebrews. But when we look on the surface, get beyond the surface and look below the surface, things don't really look so good. When we look at Abraham, we think, well, wait a minute now. Wasn't Abraham the one that lied and said, Sarah's not my wife, she's my sister? Wasn't Moses the one that killed an Egyptian and run out of town like a dog with his tail between his legs and run out into the wilderness? When God spoke to him through the burning bush, he stuttered and he stammered and he said, don't send me, I ain't going. The Lord said, go tell Pharaoh, set my people free. But don't send me. Don't look like much of a hero, does it? How about Barak? For you that don't know, Barak was the commander of the Israelite army, and there was a woman named Deborah that was judge of the land. Now, Deborah was the physical ruler of the nation of Israel, and she was the spiritual ruler of the nation of Israel. And God told her to go tell Barak to go face the army, that the victory would be given to him. So she goes to Barak, and she says, the Lord said to go fight Sisera, the enemy, and the victory will be given unto you. And he said, I don't know about that. But I'll tell you what, Deborah, if you'll go with me, I'll go. But because he refused to go when God said go, she spoke to him and said, the victory will be won today, but it won't come through your hands. It will come through the hands of a woman. So Sisera during the battle gets tired, the enemy leader. He runs into the tent of this little Israelite woman who takes a tent stake and drives it through his head, and they win the victory. Now let's look at David a minute. David was a murderer. He was an adulterer. I just don't know how big of a hero they really are. Let's look at Samson, man, physically strong. Mentally, not so strong. Morally, not strong at all. Is this God's best? It's listed in the book of Hebrews, the 11th chapter, as heroes of the faith. The best. Right? Well, let's look a little bit deeper at this. That chapter 11 of Hebrews is not perfect people. It's imperfect people. It's people that fail God. It's people that said, I don't want to go. It's people that said, I'm the only one that's trying to serve you, God. Let's look a little deeper. Maybe it wasn't their physical abilities that put them in that 11th chapter of Hebrews. Maybe it wasn't their accomplishments that put them in that 11th chapter of Hebrews. I think it was one thing, David, that put them in there, and that was gumption. They had some gumption. They had some get up and go. They had that. They would say, I want to go. I'm going to do this, it was gumption that caused him to do it. And it takes gumption. What is gumption today? Have you ever thought about that word? It's a Scottish word. It's an old Scottish word. Simply means guts. Guts, drive, the desire to do it. You're not going to stop. You're not going to quit. Gumption. Gumption's a good thing. Let's look at gumption today. First of all, do you have any gumption this morning? As I'm speaking to you, do you consider yourself to have gumption? You're going to make it happen no matter what. No matter how hard it is, you're going to accomplish what you started out to do. No matter. The first thing about gumption is you've got to have a commitment. A commitment that says, I'm going all the way through. Let's look at Daniel a minute. Now, Daniel was of the royalty of the Israelites, and he was captured and taken into Babylon. He's facing different things in his life. First thing, the food that he's eating is different than what he's used to eating. The food that they're bringing him, he's not allowed to eat by the rules, the dietary rules that he's under. So he said, no, I ain't going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that food. So he don't eat the food. He had the gumption, David, to stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right. I don't care what happens, I'm going to do what's right. I am not giving in. I am not going to do this. It takes gumption to do that. Later on, the king made a decree. He was tricked into making this decree that whoever made a petition of anybody other than him would be thrown into a den of lions. In other words, you couldn't pray. Daniel prayed anyway. He had the gumption to pray. No matter what, he was going to pray. No matter what happened, he believed with all his heart. He had the guts to pray. They caught him praying. They brought him before the king. The king didn't want to throw him into the lion's den, but the law said he had to go into the lion's den. And I've seen a lot of pictures, a lot of artwork of Daniel in the lion's den. Now, almost every one of them shows him down on his knees praying and the light shining in. I don't think that's the way it was, David. A lot of movies that I've seen about Daniel, he's shaking in fear. I don't believe that's the way it was when he went in the lion's den. I believe he had some gumption. I believe he knew his prayers was caught up.
Amen.
I don't believe he went in that lion's den with fear. I believe he knew God would shut the lion's mouth. I believe there was no doubt in his mind, God will shut that lion's mouth. I believe he went in there, and this is not biblical, that he grabbed that big lion by the bane, and I believe he said, you go lay down there. You go over there and guard the door. You lay down there. You're going to be my pillow tonight. I believe he had that much gumption, don't you? It takes gumption. I believe that Moses, when he finally got his act together, when he stood before Pharaoh, I don't believe he said, Mr. Pharaoh, would you please let my people go? Oh, he said, hey, God said, let my people go. He had some gumption. He had some zeal about him. He had some life about him. How about Joshua? Joshua. He's the one that said, as for me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord. How about you? Who's on the Lord's side? That's what he said. He had the gumption to stand up and say that. It takes gumption. It takes gumption. How about Paul? When Paul carried the gospel, when he said, Jesus is the Messiah, they decided they would stone him. But he still said, Jesus is the Messiah. No matter that they did stone him. When they beat him half to death. Jesus is the Messiah. When he's shipwrecked and he's out in the middle of the water. Jesus is the Messiah. He had gumption. He was going to do what he needed to do. How about Gideon? There was an army out there that was impossible for him to defeat. There wasn't no way that he could defeat it. He had an army. The Lord said, get you an army. You got too many, send them back. He ended up with 300 men against an impossible force. Because he had gumption, he won the victory. It takes gumption. It takes that, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it no matter what. Sometimes we need friendly encouragement. When David ran into a problem, Jonathan was there to encourage him. Later on, Joab encouraged him. When Elijah was at his lowest point, David, when he's ready to give up, and he said, I'm the only one that you got left, Lord. Elisha came. When Paul was down and up against it, there was Timothy, there was Titus, there was Barnabas, there was Luke to encourage him. It takes encouragement. You need to have a plan in your life. You've got to make up your mind what you want to do. What are you going to do with your life? The devil's got a plan for your life. Mm-hmm. But you need a purpose in your life. You're going to have some get up and go about you. When they tell you you can't, you're going to say, with God I can. When they tell you it's impossible, with God all things are impossible. All things can be done. It takes gumption. It takes some get up and go. I think what would help us with gumption more than anything is looking at the end result. Now, when we're back in our garden and we're pulling that hoe and it's hard, we need to look at them beans coming in, them potatoes coming in. We need to look at the end result. The Apostle Paul said, I have fought a good fight. I have kept the faith. Jesus, as he was hanging on the cross, said, it is finished. I have done what I came to do. I had the gumption to do it. If you look at the end result, it gets a whole lot easier. At our house, as Brian will tell you, or Terry will tell you, we have a lot of projects going on every year. It's every year we've got a project. And when you start out, it's hot, you're sweaty, you're tired. And the devil says, won't you just quit? And I'm looking at the end result. And we got a thing we call run the flag up. What that means, when we're done, that job's done, we run a flag up. That's what we call that. There's a lot of times, Rick, you come down to help us. We run the flag up, Brian, Terry, the end. We run the flag up on them projects. We finish what we started. And sometimes it gets rough. And I'm going to break in here just a second, tell a little tale on myself, I guess. In 2013, I weighed 247 pounds. And I knew that wasn't healthy. I done had 2 heart attacks. And I knew carrying around 247 pounds was not good for me. So we decided that we were going to start walking. And there's a little track around the school. It's probably a 1/4-mile track. And I went around there a time or two, and David, believe you me, it don't take me long to get bored with that. I was bored to death. I couldn't stand it. And the devil hollering, quit, quit, quit. And I knowed I couldn't quit, but I knowed I wasn't going to continue around that track. I looked over at Dodd and I said, I think there's a trail that branches off of this and goes over to that bridge over there off 107. I said, you get in the car and meet me. I'm going to walk. She thought I was crazy. But she said, I'm going with you. It took gumption to get up. And when we started, we didn't know how far we was going to have to walk. That day we ended up walking 4 miles. First day that we really put any effort into it. We got to where we'd walk 4 miles almost every day or 8 miles. At the end of the year, I was down to 185 pounds. But it took gumption. It took sweat. It took work. It took, I don't feel like doing this today, but I'm doing it anyway. Oh, I don't feel good today. It's raining. No, we walked. It takes gumption. But I'm going to tell you in the Bible where I see the most gumption of all. The person that I think that had more gumption than anybody in the Bible. And he's my hero. Jesus Christ left his home in glory.
Yes.
And he came upon this earth to be born in a stable of a virgin and laid in a manger. He grew up. I want you to understand that as that little boy was growing up, David, he saw Calvary then. Mm-hmm. He knew what his destiny was. As that little boy grew into a man and he turned water to wine at the wedding feast. That wine was red, and it reminded him of the blood that he would shed on that cross. When he reached out to that cripple and he said, stretch your hand out and it will be healed. He saw the stripes and the beating that he would get. By his stripes we were healed. Amen. When they wanted to make him king, they wanted to put a crown on his head. But what he saw, David, was that crown of thorns that he would wear. And yet, he could have quit at any moment, but no, he had some gumption. He kept pushing on. He knew that even those that were around him would betray him. But he kept going. He had gumption. That heel, Calvary, staring him in the face with that cross on his shoulder. He knew that he would die. The Bible said that he could have called thousands and thousands of angels. Amen. But he took that cross and he carried it as far as he could. He got weak. Somebody else carried the cross. When they took him to Calvary, we see in a lot of these movies where they put a rope around your hand and they stretch it out there for you on the cross to drive the nails in them. I believe he laid his out there, David. I believe he had enough gumption to say, Father, I am going to complete what you had me start. It's your salvation plan that I die on this cross, that others could be saved. I believe he had more gumption than anybody. I believe that he knew he was going to lay in that tomb. And I believe that he knew on that third and appointed day he would resurrect like God said he would. He had gumption. Do we have gumption today? Do we have that inner strength monastery. I can play the bass and the keyboard, Deanne. It takes gumption. You're not going to accomplish anything without gumption. If your goal in life is just to sit on a pew, you need a dose of gumption. He's called us all to do something.
Amen.
See, this church is just where we meet and get fueled up. Outside these doors is where we minister. And everybody here is called to minister.
Yes.
We need to have some gumption. I guess about 2 years ago, Rick, Rick was in here with an oxygen tank on his back, and I've said this before. Carried that tank with him wherever he went. He said, I don't know if I come down to your house or not, I'll run out of oxygen before I get there. Couldn't do a whole lot. But one day, Jesus passed by.
Amen.
He walked through this room. Rick had the gumption to believe that God would heal him.
Amen.
Guess what? Don't see no oxygen tank, do you?
No. Praise the
Praise
Lord.
God.
Praise His holy name.
That's gumption for you.
Yes.
And don't think that the devil won't try to make you feel like you still got something wrong with you. He
Yes.
will.
Yes.
But you got to believe the Word of God. You got to have the gumption to believe. Gumption will make you get out of that bed and come to church when you don't want to come.
Amen.
Gumption will make you go and do what God said to do when you don't feel like doing it. We need a big double dose of gumption today. You mean I can do it?
Oh, yes.
I promise you, you can do it.
Yes.
There's nothing